My name is Kathy Hadd, and I'm co-chair of Lowry United Neighborhoods. We were contacted by Jonathan about a week ago about this new proposal for our the parking lot by the tennis courts in Lowry. And it seemed like a proposed project that was worth having more of our neighbors hear about it, because we want to hear first what Jonathan has to say and then what you think about it. So the format tonight is Jonathan's going to do a presentation. There's a chat open, right, Paul, that you can ask questions. And at the end of this, we're going to be sending you a copy of the recorded presentation and an opportunity to vote yes or no. And we're looking for input from you as to whether LUN should support this proposal. And if more than 50% of the people agree that it's worth supporting, then we will be providing Jonathan with a letter of support that he can take to the powers that be, I guess. So we're scheduled to go for half an hour total. Jonathan said he would allow a few minutes at the end for questions. But if your question doesn't get answered, if you can type it in the text box, and he will answer them after the 30 minutes is up. And then, so after this meeting, look for an email from us, which will be your option to vote. And also, if you want to review this meeting, there will be a recording of the meeting. And this will also be posted on our website and on Facebook for, if you've got friends that couldn't make it tonight, but you're suggesting that they ought to listen to this, that'll be another opportunity for them. Any questions before we get started? Okay, Jonathan, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Kathy, and thank you everybody for making the time to be here and listen to this presentation tonight. I will be sharing my screen now and walking through this presentation, and please do ask questions along the way. I'm going to try to be quick getting through the materials because I know that this topic can generate a lot of discussion, and I want to make sure that you all have the chance to be heard. So I'm Jonathan Rogers. I'm the Renewable Energy Specialist for the City and County of Denver. Effectively, it's my job to try to transition Denver to 100% renewable electricity. And so my job really has three pillars to it. First, I'm the city's lead advocate at the Public Utilities Commission, pushing for the systemic changes, those investments at the utility scale that are made by Xcel Energy to try to transition the entire system towards cleaner resources, and creating new programs that the city and customers can take advantage of to also be investing in clean energy and hopefully be saving on their bills. And the second part of my job is to take advantage of those programs on behalf of the city and figure out how we can deploy more clean energy resources to help move the city's municipal energy use towards cleaner resources more quickly. And the third part of my job is all about community. I would not be an effective advocate on behalf of the city, nor would I be good at trying to develop projects in our community if I were not trying to listen to what it is that the community really wants and ensure that any investments that are being made in Denver and our energy infrastructure actually come back and benefit our residents and businesses. So today we're talking about community solar site at the Lowry tennis courts as covered parking and whether or not this would be something that your community would be interested in supporting. And I'm going to tell you about this being a part of a much bigger portfolio of projects and attempting to build community solar projects in every city council district across the city. Of course, as Kathy mentioned, after this meeting, you'll have the opportunity to vote whether or not you're interested in supporting. And of course, I am more than willing to come back and talk more, participate in additional meetings and answer follow-up questions to make sure that you all are as informed as possible about this opportunity. I want to give you some background on Denver's long-term climate goals. In 2018, the mayor committed to an 80% decarbonization of Denver's greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. And now over the past year, the city ran a stakeholder process with members of the public and local businesses and industry groups And the recommendations that came back from Denver's Climate Action Task Force said that we needed to go farther, faster, calling for a 100% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2040. And not only that, the recommendations in the report really emphasized the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and advance equity and racial justice. And that's something that we have certainly taken to heart of, it's not enough to be decarbonizing the city. We need to be strengthening the community as well. When I think of sustainability, I think of Denver being environmentally sustainable, economically sustainable, and socially sustainable, and making sure that our solutions hit all of those elements. So as we were thinking about, well, how do we transition Denver's electricity supply to be using more clean energy and also benefiting the community, community solar really advances both of those objectives. And so what that means is community solar is shared solar. So wherever that solar is located in Xcel Energy's service territory or in Denver, that power can be assigned to any Xcel Energy customer. So when you have solar on your rooftop, that solar is effectively assigned to your home. But when you have solar as something like covered parking in a parking lot, how do you decide who that solar gets to go to? Who receives credit for that power? So that's what community solar is. You can take that project, take that electricity and assign it to different utility meters, whether that's city-owned municipal facilities or local residents. And so community solar provided us with the opportunity to really share the power between Denver and our local residents. So we've come up with the Renewable Denver Community Solar Initiative, which allows us to build multiple solar projects in every city council district. And by bundling these as a portfolio of projects, we can achieve the economies of scale necessary to ensure that we can actually save money on Denver's municipal energy bills. We can share power between city facilities, low-income housing, and local residents. We can require the solar developer that would be building these projects to include workforce training opportunities and student education programs as part of the development process. And we can also work with local nonprofits to ensure that we are connecting income qualified residents to energy support services, including energy efficiency upgrades and cash assistance on their utility bills. And we're able to accomplish all of this at no cost to taxpayers. And we were developing this program before COVID, before Denverites thankfully passed the ballot measure 2A, creating the Climate Protection Fund, and a 0.25% increase in sales taxes. I came up with this back in September of 2019. And one of the things that was very clear to me at the time was it is going to be extremely challenging to get the mayor's office or city council or members of the public to support spending tens of millions of taxpayer dollars to go out and build these projects, regardless of what the long-term impact was going to be economically or in terms of carbon emissions. So we came up with an approach that really enables us to have our cake and eat it too. The solar developer is the one who will spend the money to build the projects, and they're in the business of selling electricity. So we created a requirement that they sell their electricity back to the city for cheaper than what we are paying Xcel Energy, and to provide all of these community programs. So in doing that, we actually save money on our bills. We create opportunities to benefit the community, and we're able to do it at no cost to the city. And like I mentioned, community is just so important to this program, and we're trying to create as many ways for residents to participate and benefit as possible. I mentioned our workforce development opportunities. Those are being developed in conjunction with grid alternatives, and 10% of the workforce will be hired through solar training programs and specifically recruited from underemployed communities in Denver. We have a partnership with Denver Public Schools to bring clean energy activities into the classroom, including things like conversations about jobs in solar and field trips out to these projects as they're being constructed. There's challenge programs to encourage or to create opportunities for students to solve clean energy problems, and even internship opportunities with the city and county of Denver and with other local clean energy organizations. And with Energy Outreach Colorado, another local nonprofit, we'll be connecting income qualified residents to free energy efficiency services, appliance rebates, and cash assistance on energy bills, which as part of our program, we're requiring the solar developer that would build these projects on behalf of the city to have a fund that we think will be equivalent to about $50,000 a year that can be distributed to families in need to help support other energy assistance programs. We also wanted to make sure that local residents had the opportunity to subscribe to this power. Selfishly, we could have just said, you know, the city of Denver is going to buy 100% of the power, and we're going to have all of those savings on municipal energy bills. But we want to make sure that local residents, if they want to, can also support local clean energy. I right now am a WindSource subscriber through Xcel Energy, and I would much rather have my utility dollars going towards supporting these programs. So hopefully I'll get to be subscriber number one, but we want to make sure that other local residents have this opportunity. It is certainly it takes a village to accomplish something of this scale across our city agencies. It is a highly collaborative effort. We went through a competitive solicitation to select a best-in-class development team that can actually build the projects, make the upfront investment, and then ensure the long-term operations and maintenance, and just ensure that the solar assets are going to do what they're supposed to do. And externally, we want to be building partnerships with as many organizations as we can that can help to either host the solar, become subscribers to the power, help connect residents towards energy services, and otherwise support both this initial slew of projects that we're putting forward, as well as future iterations of the program. I'm going to make sure I've got the chat function open so that I can take a look at this. Here we go. And I will stop along the way here and answer these questions. Some of these I'll actually get to at the end. I'll keep an eye on the chat though. So thank you for those that are already coming in. I think something that I'm really excited about, we haven't even launched our program yet, and it's already attracting the attention of organizations like National Geographic, who's calling Denver a green giant in the American West. We were the only city in North America to make their list of sustainable destinations this year. And a big part of that was Denver's efforts to achieve its 100% renewable electricity target, and to do this with this innovative community solar approach. Organizations like the World Resources Institute, the Rocky Mountain Institute, Colorado Solar and Storage Association are taking notice of what it is that we're doing and are considering this a model that other cities, not only in Colorado, but around the country, may be able to replicate to advance both their clean energy and community goals. So where are we in the process? I think it's extremely important for me that we're getting the inputs that we need from the community before we actually move forward with any construction projects. We've gone through a list of about 150 sites in partnership with several city agencies to down select to 22 sites that are effectively pre-qualified for a solar portfolio. Now that we have that list, that was what was necessary for us to really understand the economics of the project and what our cost savings would be if we were to build these, and what subscription rate would we be able to get from the developer. And now we need to really confirm these sites and make sure that if we need to, we have replacements to backfill any options, but ideally to just build the support in the community so that folks are excited that as we start to build these in 2021 and into 2022, we have a list of folks that are ready to sign up for our workforce programs, to potentially buy the clean electricity, or otherwise help us connect folks in the program or participate in the opportunities that this provides. There's really two opportunities for our partners, and other than what I mentioned for the community involvement earlier. You can either host solar, so putting solar on a rooftop, a parking lot, or a vacant piece of land, or you can buy electricity from the projects. And both are critical to making sure that we have a viable initiative here. So I mentioned we have 22 sites in City, County of Denver property, as well as 3 locations hosted by the Metro Wastewater Reclamation District. We've taken care to ensure that every city council district is represented in our portfolio. And you'll notice that a large portion of the projects are carports. And that's because, we think that these achieve numerous co-benefits, such as providing shade structures to our local parks, helping to reduce heat island effects, protecting cars from hail and other weather. And they also give us the opportunity to co-locate with electric vehicle charging, which we want to put in community centers around the city. And these being highly visible locations in Denver neighborhoods, that helps get the conversation going with local students or local residents who are curious and learning more about clean energy. And, are there job opportunities? Are there ways to save money? How does this align with Denver's clean energy objectives? And what value does this bring to the city? I've mentioned a few times now, all of the operations and maintenance, that's on the developer. That's their responsibility. They're making the investment in the solar, and they sell the electricity back to the city and other customers. So they only get paid back if those solar assets do what they are supposed to do. So they have a financial incentive to ensure that that solar is as productive as possible. And the way that the city wrote our contracts, so long as we're saving money compared to what we would pay Xcel Energy, we're happy. And so long as we are dedicating a portion of that power, 10% going to low-income housing through the Denver Housing Authority, another 10% to local residents, $50,000 a year coming in to help support income qualified programs for low-income members of our community, we feel like we're able to achieve all of our objectives. So when we think about, well, what does this look like at the Lowry tennis courts? So double rows of parking are really ideal for a canopy because it stretches over both rows of parking where a car would come in, and there's no impact to the existing uses of the site. That parking lot is just sitting there baking in the sun right now. So we figure, can we come up with a way to make it more productive? So if we were to look at Google Earth, well, what does the Lowry tennis courts look like? Very open solar exposure, no shading coming from the south, which is ideally where you're orienting that solar array. Local residents in their homes, their views will likely be obstructed by trees. It's not a big eyesore or a big multi-acre field of solar arrays. It's something that we think provides an additional community value in being able to provide covered parking for the local residents that are patrons to the Lowry Park and the tennis courts. And if you want to see an example of what a solar carport looks like, there's one at Aurora at I think it's the Kaiser Permanente medical offices. And so these, again, pretty low profile, depending on the angle at which you look at them. If you were to do the Google Street View, you can hardly even see them from the side. And generally, they're not very obtrusive in terms of the existing environment or the view planes in the area. So where are we in all of this? Like I mentioned, we've been working on this since September 2019, which is when we submitted a grant application to Colorado's Department of Local Affairs and actually received a $1 million grant award for this concept. I think the state really saw a lot of opportunity in how do you take advantage of municipal space and use it in a way that doesn't just achieve that municipality's clean energy objectives, but also provides that value to local members of the community, helping them to save money on their bills and provide options for folks who are renters or don't own their home who might not be able to go solar on their rooftop. Early in 2020, we selected our project developer through a competitive solicitation. We've announced the program internally throughout the city and formed a collaborative effort to identify those, to go through that list of 150 sites and identify those that would be most valuable for solar. The application to Excel Energy's program, just showing a representative list of sites and what we believed we would be able to accomplish, was due last month. And now next week is when we anticipate the announcement of the award from Excel. We're hoping to move fairly quickly through December and January to confirm these sites that we've kind of pre-qualified, make any adjustments if we need to that list, which allows for construction planning early in 2021, so through probably the first quarter, second quarter, negotiate contract terms and make sure that we solidify all of those agreements. And then construction would occur throughout 2021, and I anticipate into 2022. And for all of those sites I showed earlier would occur on a rolling basis or would be done so to accommodate any other activities going on at those facilities or to be as minimally interfering to the community as possible. Community outreach and engagement, it's been ongoing since the start. We've been speaking about this mostly with other organizations that are looking for innovative ways to achieve clean energy and community objectives. And now we're really getting out into the community now that we actually have a site list that we can talk about. So it's not just a hypothetical and something that you can all really react to and hopefully bring you in as partners to help make this opportunity a reality. So what I'm asking for today is a formal letter of support indicating the community's interest in hosting a local solar project as a part of our portfolio, and then working with my team in Denver Human Services to help be that ambassador to local residents and organizations to help connect folks to the services that we can provide and to students and the opportunities that they might be able to bring into their schools and workforce training opportunities for those local residents. I have a link here that I can put in the chat for those that are interested in joining our wait list to become a residential subscriber. And we are very interested in bringing more sites into our program. Like I mentioned, this is the first iteration that we've done this. This is the first time anyone in the country has ever done anything like this. And we really hope that the sky is the limit here and that we will be able to go out with a second application to Excel Energy next year and continue to expand this program and bring more community sites into the Renewable Denver Community Solar Initiative. So I will be looking at the chat now and answering as many questions as I can. I really appreciate your time and consideration of this proposal. All right, so I see from Linda, we're recruiting high school students for our efforts. Can you elaborate on how they would be helping and participating in this project? I will stop sharing my screen for now so that I can look at everybody as we're doing this. My son in high school looking for an Eagle Scout project. Would there be any opportunities here? So Linda, I'm not certain if this would be particularly appropriate for an Eagle Scout project. I would need to give more consideration to that. I'm not very familiar with that program. So what we're doing with Denver Public Schools, they have what's called their Career and College Success Program. So for middle schools, it's mostly things like you go in and you start to pique the interest of students and talk to them about careers in clean energy or have some hands-on activities that kids can do. And then as they get into high school and they have more specialized classes, we'll actually be working directly with teachers as part of their lesson plans to have them solve problems like calculating the amount of solar that could be produced on their home's roof or at their school and determining, is that enough to offset their energy needs and what are the cost implications of that? And then their internship program, we actually want to bring students into the Office of Climate Action, Sustainability and Resiliency. And I would hope to have one, maybe up to 3 high school students that would work with me over the summer to identify and calculate the solar potential of new sites that we could bring into our program and help with the community outreach and engagement of this as we continue to expand it across the city. And I'll just keep running through this list and answering those questions. And if anyone does have something else that they want to speak to or a follow-up, either just put it in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself and be able to speak to it. Christine asks, is the 50,000 for the entire city? Yes, and our hope is that this is just the start of a fund that will continue to be paid into as we expand this program. So with each iteration, as we add more project sites, we will be requiring those development partners to continue to invest in that fund that can be used to support income qualified residents. We're also very fortunate now with the passage of ballot measure 2A with the establishment of Denver's Climate Protection Fund that we have resources that we will be able to dedicate towards services for folks throughout the community and hope to continue to provide opportunities to benefit from clean energy. Chuck Woodward asks, is this similar to the community solar on top of Hangar 2? I would say yes. I think community solar is very similar regardless of where it's located. It's very rare that you see projects that are sited actually in communities. And that's something that we've wanted to solve and really put the community back into community solar. I believe Hangar 2, if I'm not mistaken, might have been 2012, maybe 2015. But regardless, all of the projects that have been built in the past few years in Xcel Energy's service territory are out in the middle of a field somewhere and connecting to a substation. And the goal is really just build solar as cheap as you possibly can and not think about what's the other value that you can create from developing those resources within the community. And that's what we hope to accomplish with this program, getting power closer to where it's consumed and creating additional community impact in doing so. Richard Smith asks if we have examined the roof area of surrounding buildings, Big Bear, Flat Roof of Colorado Department of Health, Safeway, Lowry Barracks. I am really excited to expand this program to partners that are not just City and County of Denver properties. Part of this is we need to prove this concept can work on city property first, create the contract templates, make sure that we have the framework that's going to be simple, trusted, easy to replicate. And I hope that this catches the attention of those types of properties, whether they're private owners, nonprofits, the state. We want to bring them in future iterations once they've seen that this is something that's viable and all of the risk has been removed from the program because they know that we've done it before. And if you know who pays the utility bills for any of those facilities or who the person in charge is, that's part of my requests of that's how we can get people into the program. We got to know who pays the bills and then we can give them the pitch on how to participate. Dane asks, does any of this go to the low income properties or help power low income residents lower their energy bills if they were to support this as well? Yes, that is a really critical component of this. And really what started me down this path of, we could just tie these solar arrays directly to the city building and just keep all that power and all the savings for ourselves. But we made the requirement that we were going to help low-income members of the community because that's a barrier that we've heard again and again and again from local residents and from the nonprofit partners that try to bring services and support to those low-income residents. So after really extensive conversations with the nonprofit community that's been trying to connect low-income residents to other community solar projects in the state, we decided that rather than offer subscriptions to this power for the low-income community, because that comes with income verifications and administrative burdens and paperwork. And if you were to move your home from one location to another, you get kicked off of that software that Xcel Energy uses and have to go through all the paperwork again. And in the meantime, you're missing out on your benefit. That's why we came up with the equivalent savings that would have been obtained, putting those into that $50,000 fund, and then working with Denver Human Services to provide that directly to the low income residents so that they could use that money to help save on their energy bills. So we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the nonprofit community that this is an innovative approach to overcome what has been a very significant hurdle in gaining the trust of and providing benefits to low-income residents in Denver. What about solar on top of CDPHE next to the tennis courts? Chuck, yeah, hopefully we'll be able to form partnerships and encourage a more rapid deployment of solar across the community. What we found when looking at the city-owned facilities, it seems like every single city facility needed a re-roofing 5 years ago, and there's no money to do it. So we're hoping that in the future, as a re-roofing occurs, that's something that triggers a solar deployment, because we know that roof is going to have a warranty of 25 to 30 years, and we'll ensure that we get solar and we start saving on our utility bills, and we're not going to have an interruption, which we need to pay to take everything off the roof, re-roof it, and put solar back on.
I think I need to interrupt because we're
Sounds good. There's a lot of questions.
out of time. Are these things that you can take offline and respond to, Jonathan, with the rest of these questions?
I think one more that I'll answer. I see a question
Okay.
about the electric car charging. It would be no cost to the community. Those would be supported just directly by the city as a service. And the developer was selected through a competitive bid already.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And if this is a subject that interests everybody, we may bring Jonathan back and let him expand more. And Lowry is certainly interested in getting more involved in more sustainable activities. And this is kind of a good kickoff to be starting to talk about these things. So if you can go offline and see the rest of these questions that are answered. If you want to review what was said, it should be recorded and available to you soon. And please, by Wednesday, would you let us know whether you're in support or not of us going forward and supporting this initiative. And thank you all for coming. Oh, by the way, one thing that we're going to be asking for when you vote is we need your address. We need to know that you actually are a Lowry resident. So please include that in your.
Hey, Kathy, what's the methodology to vote?
There will be an email sent to everybody that's here, and it's also going to be distributed through our email list. So it'll be a link to this presentation and also a voting option.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for coming, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you, Jonathan, so much.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.